In this episode, we sit down with Amira, the communication expert. She teaches us the lessons around communication that nobody's ever been taught. Relationships, in my opinion, break down through a lack of communication. And in this episode, we break down the stigmas, the barriers, and she gives us some useful tips on how we can become better communicators. This episode is not to be missed. I hope you enjoy it. Amira, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
It's so nice to be here. I haven't been a guest for so long, so I feel a bit out of practice.
Nah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So you are a communication expert. So for the listeners, for the people that aren't aware of your work, just describe a little bit more about what it is you do, how does it work, how long you've been doing it for.
Yeah, definitely. So I always say I'm on this mission to level up the way we all communicate, because I really feel like it's a lesson that we didn't get taught at school. And every single one of us has to do it, even if you have to use sign language. Every single one of us has to communicate. Love life, parents, family, friends, work. And sometimes I think we spend so much time feeling misunderstood, not feeling seen, miscommunications, and through my own life and having to figure it out the hard way and really struggle through, I kind of got to the point and I realised, what if we didn't have to guess our way through it? And what about if we had a set of tools, we understood ourselves better, and it actually led to like healthier, happier relationships? And I always say we're humans, like we need to feel connected. Our relationships are the things that actually make us feel really good about ourselves. So why would we not want to do it differently? So that's like my goal. That's my life goal. That's what I want to the impact I want to have on the world. And I broke it down into kind of 3 pillars within the business. So how you communicate with yourself. I always say if you cannot start with you, if you don't understand your self-talk, your values, your identity, your belief system, it's going to be really difficult you communicating in any other relationship. Then we'll kind of get into where the conflict is, the friction, adapting your style, where you influence. Like it's very, I guess, big and broad what I do, depending on who I'm working with. So if I'm talking to a CEO versus talking to someone in their relationship, it's going to look really different.
I love it. I love it. I love it. How's the motivation, the journey, the aspiration, where did the motivation to do that come from? Was that from your own experiences or?
In terms of like when I talk about communication?
Yeah, so for you to become a communication expert, was it a case of you woke up one day and like, this is what I want to do? I know this, you've obviously just explained about your journey, but was there a motivating factor behind it that made you want to go on the journey? Or
for me, I tend to say it's a combination of a few things. I definitely didn't wake up one day and say I'm going to be a coach.
Sure.
But I do think it's really easy for me to now look back and see all the pieces of the puzzle and how they fitted together, and I kind of smile because I'm like, well, it was inevitable, but I just didn't know that at the time. Like I was always going to end up here, but I didn't have a clue. So I think it's a real combination. I'm mixed. I grew up in East London. I talk about this a lot because it had a huge impact on how I see the world, but also how I saw like my parents from 2 different backgrounds, 2 different religions communicate and how they miscommunicated. Mm-hmm. So I think I observed a lot from a really young age without realising, and I absorbed a lot of that. Then I had my own thing of like, where do I fit into the world, and trying to find my place and fight for myself in typical East London. And then I walked into the corporate world, and that was like a whole different ball game. And I never really set out to do that. I was always like, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to have my own business. So that's what I always say, it's inevitable. I kind of ended up here. And then I'm always thankful for my corporate career, because I always say, I wonder if I'd be able to work in the way that I do without it. And it gave me the opportunity to work with so many different people, like different backgrounds, different ages. And that's where I always say it evolved, because it was only through doing did I then, I don't even think I figured it out. I think it became a running joke in the company. If you've got a problem, you're going to Amira to fix it. And that was the joke. And that's when I kind of really realised, oh God, I'm really good at coaching. And that's where actually I feel you get the biggest transformation. So I was like, why would I not do this? So it was definitely an evolution. It's easy to be cocky now and be like, oh, it's always going to happen. But definitely building blocks from like being little to school to corporate life for sure. And some pretty unhealthy relationships along the way.
What was the role that you had within corporate? So
I was a learning and development manager.
Okay.
So that's why I always say like it's really similar in terms of like my world now. So I did it in financial services. So if you've got to deal with tough investment managers shouting at you, then you can pretty much deal with anything. And at that time I was super junior. And they were like 50-year-old men being like, I'm not coming to your training session. Why do I need this? We're making sales. And it was like them bringing in the money, which to be fair is a fair point, was more important than me developing them. So it was always that challenge of like, how do I merge the two? And I love and admire a lot of people with technical skills. I think I have a lot of admiration for that. But you also need all the people skills and the behavioural side. And I hate when we call it soft skills. I'm like, it's not soft. Like how you connect to each other is sometimes whether you land a deal or not, is whether somebody wants to work with you again. And sometimes I think it's because it's not tangible. We find it's so hard to get our head around it. So just because you can't always see it, you can feel it, doesn't mean it's less valuable.
Absolutely. What were the experiences you talked about, your mum and dad and the different religions? If you don't mind me asking, what was the communication like? Because I remember my mum and dad are both remarried. They got divorced when I was young, and I think about mine and Amy's relationship, my wife, and how we communicate. I'm interested to know from your perspective, what was that like from the different religions and perspectives, and how did that work, and from there obviously shape your perspective today and the work that you do?
Yeah, definitely. Also, did you get married this year?
In July, yeah.
Yeah, I was having a little stalk. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I pretend I just got married, but we've been married 2 years, so I'm always like, and it's really interesting actually as you asked that question, because even within my relationship, always like working on it and then going through different chapters and realising it's constant work and how it looks really different. But going back to mum and dad, so my dad is Muslim and my mum's Catholic, and relationship to their own religions is really different. And my mum grew up quite strict, went to a convent, experienced quite a lot of like racism growing up. My mum's mixed. And my dad grew up quite liberally. And then as I got older, their roles kind of like reversed. My mum's quite like relaxed about religion. My dad's a lot stricter these days. And I think that I always look at it as a beautiful thing. I always got to see the world from two different perspectives. And I love that. And I do think it allows me to work with a lot of different people. But it's also as well when sometimes you come from two different lenses, and how do you help each other to feel seen, so it's not just about you. So if I look at both of their communication styles, I don't think I've ever broken this down. I've done this with them. They know this.
I'm intrigued.
So they're in what I call each other's blind spot. So we all tend to have like a real natural way of how we like to communicate, and that's great. And it isn't about you need to change to be something else. But what you do need to understand is what are your strengths and what are your potential blind spots? Like what are the things you tend to miss? And how can you be a bit more aware of them? So my dad is your typical, to the point, results focused, like direct, succinct, cut and dry, moves pretty fast. My mum is more of like a curious communicator. She'll want to ask questions. She'll want to understand why. And she's also very good. My mum's a teacher as well. So she's really good at like nurturing, supporting other people to kind of learn for themselves. And my dad's always been like a manager and a leader. So they're both good at what they do, and they're both good communicators in their own way, but less so with each other. And this for me is like, was a huge lesson, because you can't be the best communicator if you don't know how to adapt to the other person. And that goes for like your romantic relationship and your work life. And I think that's where like for them a lot of friction came. And I used to be able to see both their perspectives. I was like, I hear both of you. Like, neither of you are actually wrong. But I think sometimes the bit that was a little bit harder was, okay, well, how do I then adapt my message in a way that the other person can hear me? And I think that is a piece that a lot of us miss.
We're always focused on what we want, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're always focused on our opinions and our perspectives. And we struggle to seek first to understand, then be understood.
Right? Yeah. And I think it's one of the hardest things as humans because of how we're wired. And that's okay. And I'm a really big believer of, especially whenever I'm coaching or talking or doing a speech on stage, it's never about like you not being allowed to be who you are. I am one of the core pillars within my business is like being your authentic self and understanding how do you communicate from your real authentic space and not mask and not feel like you have to be somebody else. But once you know your style and you understand yourself, you have to be able to adapt and you have to be able to like hear. And I think one of our skills that we are bad at as humans, and I rarely generalize, but I think this is a fair point to generalize, is we don't listen very well. And exactly as you said. And I think if we can't come from that space, let alone then when you're in tense situations or arguments or anything that feels like a fight or friction, then you kind of stand no chance because you're not starting from a space where you're already adapting. So as soon as you add stress to a situation, shifts the way you communicate completely.
How do you advise people that you're coaching then in that example if there is conflict? And again, something that we rarely ever do in conflict is hear the other person's side of the story. How would you coach that?
I'm smiling because I'm working with a few people at the moment specifically around this. I spend a lot of time mediating as well.
Right.
So usually as well, if there's conflict, I do tend to end up working with like both parties because it can be difficult if one of you's doing the work. I always say this is whenever there is something that's tense or there's friction, you need to understand how conflict works and you need to understand how you work in these situations. And so conflict tends to work in 3 stages. And I always say having conflict is not bad. Like we all need it, right? You need it to change, to challenge the status quo. We need it at work. We need it in our relationship. I remember when I was dating my husband, and I can't remember if I've ever talked about this, but we were dating, and in the first maybe 6 months, and I was like your typical, I still am, but in a very different lens now, like really positive. And one day he turned around to me and he was like, you know, not everything needs to be positive. And he was like, sometimes just, I don't want the silver lining. I want you to just listen to me. We hadn't been dating long, and I am quite a sensitive soul. And I took it so badly.
Really?
I didn't say anything. I actually didn't react or anything. But the point of that was really helpful because 10 years ago, I was pretty volatile. And in a conflict situation, I'd like react like this. My reaction would be quite defensive. So when you say, how do I coach people through it, is understand there's 3 stages. Having conflict isn't bad. That example with my husband, I had the self-awareness at the time to pause and not say anything, and it hurt, but it was also true. And it really made me stop and reflect, and it made me do things differently. And so that's where, just because something feels a bit uncomfortable or there's a bit of friction or something's a little tense, that's not bad. What you want to do is try and catch it sooner rather than later. Because when you don't, what then happens, going back to your quote, is conflict will escalate and you're going to stage 2 and 3. And as soon as you do, your behaviour becomes so irrational and you stop thinking about the other people and you just only zone in on yourself. And that's where things can really escalate. So whenever I'm coaching somebody, one, it's understanding how big is this and how deep is this? And like, what's your value that you feel compromised? Because the deeper it is, the harder it is to get out of it. Doesn't mean you can't, it's just going to take a little bit more work. And then it's understanding as well, like, what are your friction points? I love to call them conflict hooks. What bothers you? Like, what's going to trigger you? I know for me, to this day, I still have to work on this. As soon as I feel criticised, I can feel the switch in my body. And that's like a really deep-rooted thing from childhood for me. So usually our hooks and the things that bother us will fall into like a few different categories. And usually they are quite deep-rooted. So understand what does bother you, because the biggest thing is you want to try and catch it sooner rather than later. It's a practice. Like, you're not going to come away from this podcast conversation, implement it all and like be amazing. But if you can just start to be like, all right, you know what? That's why I got upset in that situation, or that's why it felt a little bit tense, or that's why it felt hard to hear, then at least you've got the awareness. So when you go back into it, going back to your point, let's just see if we can listen and not say anything in the moment, because you don't always have to respond.
Interesting. It's interesting as well when we talk about the best communicators are the ones that have the ability to listen.
Yeah.
And this podcast, the motivation behind it was, you know, me, one person, one story, knowing that there's millions of people out there that are either an expert in something like yourself or they've overcome some form of adversity. But obviously the underlying theme of this podcast is mental health.
Yeah.
And for me, I do what I do to create a safe space for people to be vulnerable and have those conversations. Yeah. And something that is a common theme is people don't talk because they're scared that the person opposite them is not going to have the right words to say.
Yeah.
But what I say is it's to the person either wanting to offload or the person that is there listening, you don't have to have the right words to say. You just have the ability to listen.
I think that's gold, because it's also like being able to hold that physical space. And you're so right. And I like to think about humans coming from the best possible place, and we've got that good intention, so we want to support and we want to try find the words. And I was watching, I love a little bit of reality TV. My community know I love to debrief maths, I love to debrief traitors. But anyway, I think
Is that the recent series?
Yeah.
We just had Joe on.
No. I was like, should have been here for that one. So yeah, and I think I was watching something last night, and somebody had, I think they were explaining they had a miscarriage, and the person was like trying to be there for them and instantly said, like, don't worry about it, it's gonna happen. And they were like trying to be really supportive, but also it wasn't actually. And they were like filled the silence so quickly. So it was coming from that good space. But you're so right. And my podcast is called Open Up. So like really similar premise to you, because I think two things on this as well is make sure you're opening up to the right people as well, and make sure that there is that safe environment. And if you're on the receiving end, like you said, hold the space. Like sometimes it's the energy, the physical presence, and sometimes it's not just what you say. That's kind of speaking your message and landing it. So yeah, I think what you said is gold, absolute gold.
Thank you.
This episode of the Tom's Talks podcast is proudly sponsored by Unthin, the hair growth company that's helping people feel more confident in their own skin. From supplements to topical product, Unthin is deeply rooted in the science behind helping people with a healthy hair and scalp. You can use the code TOM20, that's TOM20, for 20% off at the checkout. Thank you to Unthin to supporting honest conversations around mental health.
Why do we struggle with silence so much?
A couple of things. Think about it first of all. When have you ever really in your life had to like be silent in a conversation and not respond?
Not. I can't think of a time.
Right?
Yeah.
And usually what happens is your self-talk will fill in the gaps, and our brain is so good at doing that. And then that's where you tend to create your own stories. So if, for example, we take that and we apply it to a work situation, somebody's self-talk could become pretty negative and be like, oh my God, if I don't answer quickly enough in a meeting, it looks like I don't know what I'm talking about. So that starts to fill in, even if it's with your partner and you're like, oh God, I didn't say anything, they're going to think I don't care. And so you start to fill in those stories. And so that is usually the fear that will kick in and take over your brain that makes you feel like you need to talk. Whereas actually, like, hold the space. It's okay to pause. I say it as well to my clients, even if they're doing public speaking, or they're like, Amira, I'm not great at speaking confidently, or even a presentation at work. And I was like, okay, pause. It will feel so awkward for you because you're not used to it. But it's like, it's so simple. And sometimes I think it sounds so boring, like the power of the pause. But guys, like, don't underestimate that. Things as well, like if you're negotiating, if you wait 10 seconds, I will almost guarantee the other person's going to fill the gap for you.
Have you heard that in sales as well? If you are on a sales call and you end your pitch, if you wait 8 seconds, you're 50 times more likely to close the deal. Something like that, anyway.
Yeah, so no, I didn't know the stat, but as you're talking...
I don't know if that's true, by the way, but it's a very high likelihood of closing the deal if you wait 8 seconds before actually saying anything. Or if the other person talks first, they lose.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised. Even if the stat's not 100% right, you're definitely in the right arena, because I generally say as a rule, wait 10 seconds and you count to 10 and your whole body is going through this discomfort. But I always say, this is like one of my biggest mantras, is like learn how to sit in the discomfort. So, with anything that you'd communicate in, because it's like learning how to express yourself, one of my clients recently, actually, we were talking about her and her husband, and she was like, why doesn't he express himself in the way I do? And I was like, why are you forcing him to? And I said, you're communicating from a space where you want to talk about your feelings and your emotions, but he's got a different way of showing it. So actually, like, how can we meet in the middle with that? So, yeah, that pause is so powerful. But if you can hold the space, practice. Like, if 10 feels too long, start with 5. But usually as humans, 2 seconds feels too uncomfortable, and the other person, generally speaking, as a rule, will.
Yeah. I found the public speaking that I do,
Yeah.
when I really felt like I was getting good at it was when I was able to sit in the pause.
Yeah, I love that.
And not just sitting in the pause, but then seeing the reaction from the audience when I pause. Like, you'll know more than me, you know, when you say something really impactful, the reason why the pause is so important is because it gives the audience time to process what you've just said. And if you've just said something very meaningful, impactful, or significant, then you need to give them that time to understand and process what you've said, which just makes it even more impactful in itself. But now it's like becoming obsessed with being the best public speaker that I can be.
Yeah.
Like, you know, watching videos from yourself and other people that communicate and public speak, it's slowing down, confidence, not rushing, but then the power of the pause. And the best feeling ever is when you say something impactful, especially at the end, and you just pause and you look around and you can hear a pin drop. It's cool. It's a cool feeling.
Well, listening to you now, you've got a really grounded, calm energy.
Oh, thank you.
So I was like, you're doing well, okay?
Thank you.
You're doing well. But you said so many valuable things because our brain, especially in today's world, we're consuming way too much information. I was actually watching a story from one of my friends yesterday, and she was talking about she's always wanted to do a documentary, so she's like working on it. And she said, but guys, like, how are you consuming your content at the moment? She went, because it's just overstimulating. So if we remember that that's kind of the world we live in, it's not, there's pros and cons to it. But exactly as you said, you being able to take that pause. But there's also something, I talk very deeply around like subconscious pieces around communicating, because that's how I like to coach. And I like to coach deeply. So that's really important, because actually that's a self-trust piece. That's you trusting yourself enough to be able to hold that silence and trust that that message has landed with your audience. And that's a skill as a public speaker. That wouldn't have come overnight. But the fact that you've got that and you can also see the impact on your audience or community is incredible. And you're so right, as humans, like, we need space to process. We all do learn really differently. So in any audience, you're going to get people that can absorb information really quickly and then give you an answer. You're going to have your reflective learners that need like to take it in. And that allows a point to land. And I always say in any like presentation or public speaking, like, what's the one thing you want to leave them with, or you want them to know, think, or feel differently? Like, just one. Because sometimes we're trying to give 5 million pieces of, and like, no one's going to remember it. Out of anything you ever talk, I mean, I talk for a living, okay? And I facilitate a lot of team sessions. And I joke with them because I'm like, guys, I'm with you for half a day on a 3-month program, like three times a month. You're going to remember 20% of what I do with you. And that's how the human brain works. There's all the other pieces around it. So yeah, that's so important. But honestly, you've got such a grounded energy. So I was like, it's working.
I'll tell you that. Especially from an expert like yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I know we spoke initially about, you know, the early years of yourself, but what was it that made you so passionate about this and like the emotional self-awareness? Like, what really drove you? I know we spoke about corporate work and the background and everything, but internally, like deep down, what was it? What was it?
I honestly really think it was like a combination. I think it was kind of be like unofficial mediator for my mum and dad, and like never really realizing that, but then always being able to see both sides. So I didn't understand why they couldn't see it. So that was definitely a huge part.
Are you an only child? Sorry. Have you got a sibling?
No, I actually got a brother and a sister.
Okay. Are they younger or older?
My sister's older and my brother's younger.
But it still fell to you to do the...
Yeah, it's very complex because I always smile when I say this.
Okay.
I'm like oldest middle. My sister will disagree on this.
Sorry, remind me, your older brother,
So
younger brother,
younger brother
older sister.
and my older sister.
Okay.
But I always say I'm like the oldest middle child.
Okay.
Really complex.
I get it.
Okay, yeah, fine. I was like, I'm not going to break it down on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm the young. Well,
Yeah.
we had Liam, obviously, so I would have been the youngest of 4. Now I'm the youngest of 3, and we run the family business together. So I kind of feel like I understand what you mean.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
I was like, we can have a whole separate combo on that. I was like, trust me, I spend a lot of time with my clients talking about these things. And I really do think, though, your like family dynamic and your sibling relationships has a huge impact in terms of how you communicate the role you play, how you hold space for it, and like if you fall into fixer mode, pleasing mode, like a lot of that then will feed into your communication. So it's a really important piece of the puzzle. So yeah, that was definitely a piece that I think always sat with me. And then I think probably in my 20s, like 2 key things. In terms of corporate, I always felt like I was proving, and I used to work really hard. I still do, but in a very different way. And I never felt I was good enough. So I always felt like I was pushing, and like I would never get the promotion and I would never get the pay rise. And so it's easy now for me to look back and say, yeah, you didn't know how to advocate for yourself. Like you didn't know how to take the emotion out of it. And so in a workspace, before I come onto relationships, is I didn't know how to manage my emotions in order to be a better communicator. I didn't know how to go and pitch myself in a really strong way to say, hey, this is my business case and this is why I deserve the pay rise, or this is why I'm requesting like the promotion. And it's funny because I do a lot of that with my clients now. So it's a skill and you can learn it. So I think from a work perspective, there was a lot of frustration. And at the time, I didn't have the knowledge to understand that, 1, I can learn it, but 2, your hard work is not enough. Really sorry to break that one to you guys. You can work hard, but you have to be able to essentially sell yourself. And like I was working with one of my clients who actually is part of my workshop tomorrow, so we're going to hear from her. She came to me, she was already an incredible business owner and was really against being on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, I'm not here to tell you whether you should or you shouldn't be, but like give me the reasons why you're against it. Like what's stopping you?
What were the reasons?
Because she thought it was icky and braggy to talk about what she does. She's in sports and fitness and works with like incredible athletes and pretty well-known names. And she was like, it's bragging. I was like, is it? Or is it building your business and your brand awareness? And so like when we overcame that, so that was a huge, like it definitely came from frustration. And then I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship for a pretty long time. And that took ages for me to like unpack. And I think I always had like 2 parts of me, in terms of everyone thought I was super confident and like didn't really take any shit, and it wasn't that it was fake, it was that there was an element of me. There was also an element of me that deeply didn't feel confident, and I think that's the difference between your conscious and your subconscious. And so for somebody that was pretty bold still at the time, I'd be in a relationship and I'd be mute or I'd go silent, and I didn't know how to deal with like the disagreement, and it would consume me and I'd overthink. And I was like, at the time I wasn't like, oh, there's got to be a better way of doing it, let's go figure it out. Kind of lived it for a really long time. And I always describe it, I know when you asked at the beginning, you said, Amira, was there a point where you were like, yeah, I'm going to go and like be a coach and this is what I'm going to specialise in? Whilst that didn't happen, and I'm glad it didn't because of the way it evolved so organically, but there was definitely a point where I was like numb. I was just numb and I was living on autopilot. And I wasn't even like, there has to be a different way of doing it, because you don't even know you're numb and you're in autopilot. So like that's pretty difficult to break. And then I was on a work trip in South America, which was definitely like one of my key pivotal moments, because you're not in the same environment. And that's where I kind of like, I can only describe it as like I took a breath, like I was able to actually breathe. And then I was like, oh, these people like accept me for like me. And that was like the first time probably. And I was in my really late 20s then. So that was like a moment, definitely for sure, where I was like, oh, okay, so wait, I've got a choice and I get to do this differently. So I know that is like probably the longest answer you've ever had, but it was a combination of like, what did growing up look like? Why was I struggling like career-wise, even though like I was a high achiever, I wasn't where I wanted to be, and it didn't feel like my output was matching like my title or my pay. And then like my relationships weren't very good either. So I was like, well, something's got to be going on. And I think more than anything, I found it because I was already coaching as part of my like corporate life. And it was more what people came to me for. And that's when I think it started to click, and I was like, oh, I can coach you through this for a reason.
I love that. I think one of the things I took away from there was taking yourself out of the usual environment.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key element of life. Is so many of our decisions and our habits are a outcome of our environment,
Yeah.
and whether they are good or bad.
Yeah.
But taking yourself out of the environment to be able to, not that you did it intentionally to think and have the outcome that you had, but you know, it's a lesson in life, isn't it? Sometimes taking yourself out of the environment that you're in, if things aren't quite right, or you're a little bit unhappy, or there's some anxiety there, then take yourself out of that environment, because there might be some significant clarity that you didn't know that you needed, or that there might be.
Honestly, I think it's such an underrated thing, because it's funny, even like over the last couple of months I've been writing about it a lot in like my newsletters, and my community know, like, I have a rule now where I try and travel every 2 to 3 months, and I get that's like a luxury that I've worked really hard for, but on your point, 100%, even as well, if you need to like get on a train and just go somewhere, like it doesn't have to be get on a plane, or right, I'm gonna go and be in the countryside and like be offline, whatever it is. And I think you're so right, because I mean, I love tech and I love AI, so we're not slamming it or anything, but I do think our brains haven't been built and haven't evolved yet to deal with the amount of information we're consumed with.
Absolutely.
And exactly as you said, like changing the environment switches something within you, whether it's your creativity, whether it's you looking at your friendships. And I always say, like, we've got the answers inside, but if you aren't still with yourself enough, you're never going to hear it. So yeah, wherever you can, change that environment. It can be super small, but do it. I'll do it in a work week. Like, I will just go to like my favourite coffee shop. I'm like, give me the best matcha. And I'll sit and like R&B playlist in. That's how I like can really like just in a week just sit with myself. So yeah, definitely, I'm the biggest fan of it.
I find that, although much to Amy's dismay, I am like that when we go on holiday, which is great, and it's not, because we go on holiday to relax and not think about work. But then, like, I'll be sat in the pool and I'll just like have all these crazy ideas that will come to me.
Yeah, I'm same.
And then Amy's like, "Fuck's sake, here we go again."
Yeah, Louise the same. Sometimes I'll like just get up so I can like journal in the morning on the balcony, and he's asleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's honest. I'm the same, and like all the creativity floods. But it's also because you're out of the doing. So I think like anyone listening as well, like whatever your job is, whatever you do in life, wherever you're at, whether you're feeling stuck or whether you're not, I always say one of the most important lessons, I probably say that a lot about many things actually, but is like learn how to be with yourself, because you'll hear yourself talk, and like that's really important, and it is hard and it is confronting. But yeah, definitely, I remember sitting on the beach in Brazil. I was on my own, didn't speak a word of Portuguese, and I journaled for like hours, and I was like, oh, didn't realise I needed that. And I don't know if I journaled ever before that point.
Is journaling something that's part of your routine on a daily basis?
Yeah, my honest answer, so not on a daily basis, I'd be lying. I'm too much of a business owner and we're trying to break this habit. No, I don't do it anywhere near as much as I want to or need to. And I know, because my brain works at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But something I say to my clients as well is, yeah, if you can build it daily, great, amazing, do it. It doesn't need to be pages. It can be 5 minutes. But if not, like once a week. In an ideal world, that's what I aim for. And I think, obviously, because I talk about communicating, I just think it's a great way to organise your thoughts. And it's a really good way, if you're not working with a coach, as an example, where you can start to build your self-awareness. Things will come out on that page that you won't even realise. And life moves fast. And it's like your pause. It's your pause. It's like the way you get to spend time with yourself. And if you're not journaling at all, start with once a month. Do it for like 2 minutes. One of my clients, like a few years ago, was like, I don't get this whole journaling thing. Like, no. And was working like 60 hours. And that's always the thing I'm trying to balance. Like, how can I fit coaching into their life? I was like, right, we're starting once a month, 2 minutes. Timer goes off, that's it, put the pen down. Then you build the habit.
This podcast is fueled by Prep. Prep is a nutrition-first meal prep company that allows me to have high-quality meals without spending hours in the kitchen. As a business owner that prioritizes their health and fitness, Prep allows me to hit my goals for the day without sacrificing loads of time. My personal favorite is the Cajun salmon, but if that's not for you, then there is plenty of other options as well, including vegetarian and halal. And the best part, you get 10% off your order when you use the code TOM10 at the checkout. That's TOM10 at prepuk.com.
I got into the habit of journaling, but then quite quickly got out of the habit.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably my mistake, was I was trying to do too much of it.
Yeah.
As we know, habits are ingrained when they're easy to do and obvious.
Yeah.
And if you're making it too difficult because you're trying to do too much, that's where it's probably going to break down.
Yeah.
But there's the analogy of journaling that I have done it before and I've seen the benefits. And when people are saying to me, Tom, I'm struggling with my mental health, I'm overthinking, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
I'm like, just try journaling. And I always use the analogy, you've probably heard of it. Think about your brain as a washing machine and your thoughts as the clothes in the washing machine. When it's on, they're going around 1,000,000 miles an hour and you can't see them for what they are. But when the washing machine stops, you take the clothes out, you put them on the drying rack. They're there, you can see the colour, the texture, the aesthetic. You can see exactly what it is for what it is. And your thoughts are the same. If you take your thoughts out of your mind, they're going out 1,000,000 miles an hour and you put them into a piece of paper, you can see exactly what they are for what they are. And then you're able to process them much easier. And 99% of the negative thoughts that happen in your head never even happen.
I'm obsessed with that analogy.
Have you not heard it before?
No!
I made it up.
You made it. You can have
I'll take
that.
credit for that.
Also, where have I been living? I really love like a visual analogy,
Yeah.
and I actually find like with my clients, I'm quite a visual learner, so that's probably why. But I think it's beautiful, especially as well when you're overthinking. Like sometimes you need the visual to be able to understand what you're
Yeah.
trying to do, especially with like your thoughts and things that you can't always see. Love
I'll
that.
take credit for it then. I thought somebody else had made it up, but I made it up.
But that was such a great way actually. And you're so right, because when you can see something and you see it on the page, it also takes some of the weight out of it as well. And then you can see like the fear and
Absolutely.
decide whether you want to challenge it or not. Question I wanted to ask you.
Oh, go on then.
When you were talking about, you got out of the habit of journaling, like you were in it and then you were, what's a habit that you have in your life that like works really well for you? That's about anything. It doesn't have to be mindset.
Exercise as soon as I wake up.
And like, what's your why behind it? And how
Why? I'm very much, I think similar to you, I've struggled with self-doubt, feeling like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a negative side to this. Like if I don't exercise in a day, there is the thought of I don't feel good enough if I don't exercise, which I know is not a good thing. And it's something that Amy is always saying to me, like, just if you don't go to the gym today, it's not the end of the world, like chill out.
Yeah.
And I'm aware of that. But then the other side of it is like, for me, similar to you, very busy, you've got a lot going on. I need to be on it.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, focus, clarity, I need to be on it. And I know that exercise first thing in the morning, it helps me do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well is it's like something I speak a lot about is just do the hard things.
Yeah.
Just do the hard things and your life will become easier. And for me, waking up, especially at the minute, it's hard to get out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to get to the gym.
Yeah.
It's hard to do a workout. But then after I've done it, the day becomes easier.
Yeah.
And I think that has always been the habit and always will be the habit that I've been able to keep.
Yeah.
And cold water therapy as well.
Oh, don't get me started on it. My husband loves it.
Yeah.
I'm dead against it.
Really? For what reasons?
So there's actually, I need to find you the podcast clip because I've saved this.
Okay.
Because this is like me not talking. This is like backed by the science and the research. So this is what I say about it. If it works for you, great, do it, amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not cold therapy. My nervous system honestly generally cannot handle it.
Fair enough.
And I'm an infrared sauna girl. So like I'll take the concept, but give me the heat and not the cold.
Okay.
But yeah, my husband loves it. And I remember even in COVID, like got to over 2 minutes, he'd make me count the cold shower. And I'd be like, stop this now. But yeah, I'm actually dead set against it. But I just think it needs context. I always say, like, if it works for you, which I do tend to find it does work better for guys. Not saying, I also know a lot of females that love it and are really about it. Guys, I'm all about your health, your mindset, your communication, your relationship. You're never going to catch me. I've done an ice bath twice. Under duress.
It's what works for you though, isn't it? Like you said, like, and I think, one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And I think this is my issue with social media at the minute, and it's something I've been very conscious about with the content that I put out, is that some influencer, fitness guy, guru can come on a podcast or go online and start talking about everything that they think people should be doing.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of helpful information out there, 100%, and there's a lot of people sharing positive messages. But I think the most important message is that take it away, try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, don't feel disheartened that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
There will be something else out there that will, for you, infrared saunas, which I do enjoy as well, a lot. But for me, an ice bath and a cold water therapy, it's just, again, like, I don't know if it comes from a negative way or for what. It's just like, I know that in the morning I need to do something difficult. And like a cold water, either an ice bath or a cold shower, it's just that mental toughness thing in the morning.
Yeah.
I did something hard. Now I can go about my day to day, and it's going to become a lot easier.
I love that, because I also think, sorry, because I really do feel like I've interrupted you.
No, don't be daft.
Also,
I talk a lot if you didn't realise.
my kind of person. The book Eat That Frog as well. So I know that links more to procrastination, but I think there's something so powerful around doing the hardest thing. And even if it's not the first thing in your day, I do it with my sessions, like my running sessions in the week. Okay. So my hardest session will always be on a Monday. Done.
Running as in outdoor running?
Yeah.
What distances?
Ideally, I haven't quite trained for this, but this is going to be my goal for next year. I can't believe I said this publicly. I normally keep my goals to myself.
Get this on camera.
200 metres.
Yeah.
Is my distance.
Okay.
That's what I'm really good at. But this year we're training for a 5 and a 10K. So
nice.
We'll see.
So you're going for 200 metres, you're going as fast as you can?
Yeah.
What sort of times are you?
So my fastest, I've done under 30. It was at the end of a session. So I've done 28 seconds in a 200 metres, which I think is decent considering like I'm not an athlete. So I'll take that. Yeah, I just love it. I thought, imagine I train for this. I think I can get that down.
You'll be at the Olympics next year.
Oh, no. No, my brother's like an 800 metre runner. So I'm like the non-runner. I'm like, we just do this for fun.
I love that. But yeah, like you said, it just goes back to that principle, doesn't it? And for a lot of people, you know, he doesn't need to be doing an ice bath in the morning for doing a hard thing.
Yeah.
And I always say, you know, please don't take it out of context. You know, if the hard thing for you is getting out of bed in the morning because you're struggling with your mental health, then equally you achieve something in that day.
Yeah.
And it's all relative to the individual and your own circumstances and what's going on in your life.
Yeah, you're so right.
You can't compare it. Again, this is the thing I hate about social media. And again, very something I'm conscious about my content. You know, the other day I put a gym selfie on 7 o'clock. I just put do the hard things.
Yeah.
But I don't put it on every day. And again, I'm very aware that if somebody's struggling with their mental health, for them going to the gym at 7 o'clock in the morning is alien.
Yeah.
So again, it's relative to you and your circumstances, but you can build up to that.
But I think that's really important, and I was nodding because it's just like I really hear you around the social media. But I think the thing you said that I echo is find what works for you.
Exactly.
And I think this whole journey is about learning to understand yourself better. So even when you ask me like, where does it come from, why I'm so passionate about what I do, like my life goal is that we get to take this into schools, because I work with adults where most of the time we're unpacking the pieces where actually if we learnt things in a bit of a different way, we'd have better relationships. We'd know how to show up. Like the self-doubt would be less. We're still human. Like we're going to have those fears. Our brain is wired in that way for a reason. But I really think there's something so special and powerful around you can figure it out on your own. And sometimes I think because there's so much information out there, we almost want to be like spoon-fed it. But like go and experiment. And I've got like one of my clients, it's like, I don't know what I want to do, like career-wise. I was like, okay, but we don't really have a track history behind us. So we're going to have to go and figure it out. And that means experimenting. That means I'm never going to go tell you because I'm a coach. So I'm never telling you, because there's always that line of like not projecting. But yeah, I think you're so right in terms of, and even when you talk about the gym, because I spent 12 years in corporate, I used to always be in the gym at 6. Now I run a business. My goal is to never train at that time because I had to do it. And in my world, like freedom is really important for me, like as a value. And I used to train at 6 because I had to fit it in my day at that point. Now my goal is don't train at 6 in the morning. Somebody invited me to a 6:30 class. No, guys, you will not catch me there anymore. So that's why I think it's a really good example of, and just start really small. So start really small. And as you said, when it comes to your habits, whether it's you speaking up in a meeting, whether it's you telling your partner how you feel, whether it's you feeling like going back to, I had a really good client example where like she went back into the nail shop to say, hey, actually, I'm not happy with my nails. That was really good training for your subconscious. Yeah. That was you proving to yourself that you can use your voice. And like, that doesn't mean you're shy because you don't use your voice. You just haven't learned how to find it and trust that space that you're not going to be met with like some sort of friction. So yeah, I think the two things that you said were gold is like start small, make it super easy for yourself and find your tools. I'm so big on that. Like take it all and find your way of doing it. And I promise you like it'll be even better than life is now.
100%. I want to know from somebody that is a public speaker, let's say if I dropped you a DM or sent you an email as an inquiry, how would that work? And I'm just thinking from the lens of a listener here, somebody that would be interested or intrigued to work with you. How would that work? What would that process look like, working with a communication expert from an initial inquiry and therefore the first session, and whether it's like a 6-week program or something like that? How does that? How would that look like?
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful question. I always say, first of all, like, what do you think you need? So tell me like what you're struggling with or like what that pain point is, and it'll be really different in terms of who's inquiring. So if like you want to work on a one-to-one basis, that looks really different to if you want me to come in and work with your team versus if you have an event and you want me to come and be a guest speaker. So really different examples. My one-to-one coaching space, I always say if you want to work together, we do a complimentary call first, because that's a really intimate space. So like, let's make sure, one, I'm the right coach for you, and two, we can actually figure out where you're at and where you want to be. And some people know that, some people don't. And then teams, it was my bread and butter for a really long time. So I do a lot of stuff bespoke. So I'm always like, right, what's the friction points? What's not working? Or what are you doing already that is so good? And how do we want to elevate? I do like to remind people it's not about, oh, we're doing things badly or it's so wrong or like it's the end of the world. It's like, actually, I'm doing this. I think I could do this better. And I had a great example. I was doing training a global sales team last week, and somebody came up to me afterwards and was like, I've just graduated. This is my first role. And I was like, you articulated yourself very well over the last 2 days. And they were like, yeah, but I've just watched you and I could be better. So can we work together? I was like, let's do it. So like they're coming at it from a space of how can I elevate? And then, yeah, speaking events, very broad and depends who am I talking to. Am I talking in a fitness environment? Because that's going to probably be a little bit more mindset and your self-talk and how you overcome that. So the short answer is probably bespoke. Tell me where you're at and where you want to be.
I'll give you an example of, so my other business is called OSI, School and Office Furniture. My dad started it. I took over, this is our 5th financial year since my dad retired.
Okay.
We have an exceptional team.
Yeah.
They're all fantastic at what they do individually. But I think and I don't think they mind me saying this, they are not great at communicating to each other in times of frustration.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of a couple of examples.
Yeah.
Where somebody might do something or they don't do something, and there's a lack of effort from other people's perspectives, and it's not communicated back to them saying, I'm not happy with your efforts, you're not doing enough, or that pissed me off, why did you do that, your attitude, I don't know, just a few examples.
Brilliant.
How would that look? Like if I said, Amira, I want you to come in and work with the team and really help them build that connection back up and communicate better, how would that work?
Yeah, perfect. I'm smiling because I've got a team right now and that's what we're doing. So one, I'm like, let me meet the team. 2, give me at least 3 to 6 months because we're trying to change behaviours that are going to last when I'm not there. Yeah. That's the goal. First thing is always going to be, let's understand yourselves. Session 1, understand like how you want to communicate. What's your dominant style? What are your blind spots? Everything you and I talked about right at the beginning. And then in a work situation, what are your working styles? Right? How do you like to show up? Then we're going to get into your frustrations. Okay. Right, what does bother you? What winds you up? Why? What's it compromising? Then you need to do your own work, which will be the deep stuff around that's deep in your subconscious somewhere. If it bothers you at work, it's come from somewhere else. And then let's talk about how you're going to there's 2 things there as you were talking. One, feedback, which I say to everyone is going to be written on my headstone when I die, because I think that's got to be my most used word. And definitely with any business, any team. Like we really struggle how to give and receive feedback in a really healthy way. Guys, if you say to anyone, can I give you some feedback? Ditch that sentence. No, like it's just a conversation. Hey, we had this meeting last week. I want to follow up. I've got a couple of ideas about it. Why do you have to say, can I give you feedback? You're literally triggering someone's threat response.
Yeah.
You've got the defense mechanisms up before anything else. So that piece there is massively around actually, there is a way to give feedback that is going to increase your chances of that conversation landing. Then we need to look at how you're receiving it. Okay, and where your emotional responses are, and where probably they're like, what was I going to say, out of sync. And people's reaction looks different. I think that's really important to remember. So some people will be silent, will withdraw. Some people will be like, yeah, but they don't mean yeah. And some people will get defensive, or they'll shout, or they'll disagree, or they'll ask questions because they just want to clarify. And we all have our own filters. So that is really important in understanding. And I take people through a very specific model that I have used for years that works like a dream. And I'm not always big on frameworks because I'm very big around like understand the person. But sometimes it's helpful to be able to remember and implement it. So yeah, we'll do feedback and then we'll look at, all right, when things get tense and there's friction, how are you going to de-escalate the conversation? Because that's a skill. Yeah. And where you're going to implement pause in a work situation and then go and have the conversation where you can de-escalate. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
I'm genuinely interested in finding out more about that.
Yeah.
Because one of our core values as a company is continuous improvement.
Love.
Being the best version of ourselves as a company, so therefore the customer gets the best version of us and the best experience.
Yeah,
That's one of our core values, and in reinvesting back into the staff and into the team so they can be the best.
Yeah.
My vision for the company is to be the best office and educational workspace solutions company by 2028.
I'm here for this.
So,
And if I get to play a part in it, I'm here for it.
No, generally I'm interested to find out a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we'll talk for sure.
But we'll talk after.
Yeah, I was like, this is my area of expertise.
I love it.
This is what I love to do.
I love stuff like that. I absolutely love it. Like, for me,
Yeah.
I'm not talking too much about the company myself, but like as a leader, so I'm the MD of the company.
Yeah.
It all filters down from me.
100%.
And you lead from the front. They do what you do. They don't do what you say. So like when I talked about the selfie in the gym at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's not because I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm hard. Like
it's not from that space.
Look at me. Like if I'm doing it, you can do it. So that's where it comes from. So the conversation we've had, it's just like lit a light bulb up in my head. So
I like
buzzing.
that.
I'm buzzing.
But yeah, just on that point, you're so right in terms of, I smiled as well because I am at the stage in the business where I get to work with really incredible leaders, and I always say it's nice to be able to get to a point where I get to choose who I work with, right? But we worked hard for that point. But it is what you said, and it is that role modeling, and it's a lot harder for me when I'm coming into a team in a business, and let's say it's like a big, and I haven't got the MD on board. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I've got a team in front of me who genuinely want to learn, and they want that continuous improvement, and they're willing to do the work. But what about when the culture doesn't support it? Then we've got a big of a uphill battle. So the fact you are coming from that space, and 100% role modeling is so important as a leader, and it's then creating, I'm getting so corporate here, but it's that psychological safe environment. But really what you said in terms of like why you started this podcast and creating that safe space for you to be able to express your emotions and your feelings. Okay, well, how do we do that at work, in our professional relationships, when things are tense and tough? Because that's when it gets tricky.
Do you do more with corporate companies or individuals? What do you find the split is?
Everybody asks me this question. Everybody. So don't know if you're going to like the answer, but it swings in roundabouts.
Okay.
And two things for me. One of my other core values is variety. So I know that I'll say this now. It'll be on tape. So like, who knows? In 10 years, this might look really different. I don't think I'll ever just do one. It's not how I've built the business. I want the business to evolve, but I love that sweet spot. I love being able to work with teams and have that impact. And I love being able to work on an individual level. So I can't see myself having to choose one. I love both. It allows me to see it from two different angles as well. And the split is different in every seasons. Like every season is just different. So sometimes we'll have more one-to-one. At the moment, we're in a heavy team session, a team era. So yeah, a lot of teams at the moment actually. And loads of different sizes. We've got startups, we've got global teams, we've got teams that have just been acquired. So very different challenges in each team because the culture is different.
Just a quick one. Most of you watching this episode aren't yet subscribed. So if you want your weekly motivation from some incredible guests, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn your notifications on.
Why do you feel, or why do you think that people find it so difficult to open up and talk?
You're talking to somebody that never used to open up. And I know people do find it really wild. And I think it was when one of my clients in the really early days, I was still in corporate, I didn't even have the business then. He turned around and he laughed and he said, "What do you mean you didn't used to be confident and you didn't used to talk or open up?" He was like, "I don't believe you." And I was like, I didn't always communicate like this. So even when he said, like, where does it come from? In terms of why we struggle to open up, that vulnerability piece is so important. For me, not saying everyone else is going to be the same, it came from like the culture of being at home, like opening up is weak. Like you don't talk about your feelings. Like don't do that. You keep it private. You strong it out. That is so East London slang. You just like be strong in terms of like my dad's voice and get on with it. So don't be weak, and like speaking and opening up equal or equated to being weak. So for me, I didn't. I just would like bottle it all, internalize it. So I think usually there is a belief and understanding what's your belief as to why you won't open up. Sometimes it will be you've done it before and you've been met with a really bad response. That's enough for your brain to be like, shut down. I'm not doing that again. So usually somewhere from fear, and there will be a belief of I shouldn't, it's wrong, it's weak, it's bad, something along those lines. And then we need to challenge that. And I had actually somebody recently say, "Amira, I'm really trying to get my partner to open up. So what do I do to make them open up?" And I was like, I'm sorry to break this one to you. You can't. You can create the safe space for them when they're ready, and you can keep reaffirming that you're here. And again, it came back to actually what you said. It was more about, in that situation, them holding the space and just not saying anything. But if you haven't been used to opening up and you've never done it before, it's going to feel like the scariest thing you're going to have to do. So I like to think about it of, you didn't even ask this, but I was just going to say, if you want to try, then start really small and start in an environment that feels the safest for you.
I love that. And what are some of the signs for somebody that you feel might be struggling? They want to talk, but they're not talking. What do you see are the signs?
Everyone's really different. If it's somebody close to you, notice like any sort of shift in behaviour. Because normally it's like different to what they're doing normally. It's a really hard one to answer, because if somebody's already like quite quiet and doesn't talk about their emotions, you're not really going to notice a shift in that. My big thing around it more than anything is like ask questions. And this kind of comes back to the listening piece. Just ask questions. And sometimes a great phrase to say is, "I've noticed." Or like, "I've noticed this lately. What's going on for you?" That's it.
I saw what you did with your tonality then as well. It was very like soft and slow and curious. Whereas I've noticed something recent, like it was the complete opposite of that. Because if you say it like that, it's abrasive and it's rushed and it's triggering. It's like, I've noticed something. Like, I could see what you did there. You are good at this. You are good at this.
Do you know what? It's such a nice reminder that you even brought this up, because I think because it's so innate in me now, I sometimes don't always talk about it unless I'm like with a one-to-one client. But with one of my clients at the moment, we were talking around really difficult conversations with their partner. They're about to get married, and we've got some really tricky conversations on the table. And so we were doing a little bit of the follow-up, and I was voice noting so they could hear, and I essentially role-played the conversation with them, and they did what you just did. But they said, "Oh my God, like, I don't say that to him in that way." And I said, "Okay, but it's because at the moment your fear is taking over, and that frustration is now coming across to him as though you're like criticising him and finding something wrong, but you're not. Your feelings are just really overwhelming. So take the tone out, like take it down. And you have to do it as well when you're not rushed to go and do, like, don't do it in the timing of a conversation is so important."
Can I give you an example?
Yeah,
Amy's
go for
probably
it.
going to shout at me after this, but
Amy, don't tell
I
us.
feel like we one of our strengths as a couple is we do communicate really well, and we do voice our opinions and talk. But one way in which she annoys me is we're on the train yesterday, and I am very loud. Like my voice is loud. I'm just just a loud person, and when she'll laugh because we had the conversation after. She's like, "Shut up! You're talking really loudly." And you're like, the way in which you've just said, like, tonality is everything. You could, and I said to her, it's the way that you say it.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the middle of a conversation, you're telling me to shut up. Like it's really irritating.
So pause there though. Rather than irritating, how did it actually feel for you when she said that to you?
It made me angry.
What's underneath the anger? So you felt angry, but by her telling you, like, shut up, like, take that tone, like, take your volume down.
Yeah.
Like, how does that really feel underneath the anger?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to leave you to think about it because usually anger's like your surface emotion.
Okay.
And there's going to be something in there for you as to why you felt irritated. Like, she's challenging something in you before I even get onto her tone.
Ah, right.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
before
yeah,
that, it's bothered you, but you need to figure out why. Is it like someone telling you what to do? Like for me, in that situation, mine's easy. It'll feel like a criticism. But yours might not be that. So yours might be...
Why is it? Is it because... I'm trying to think, is it because I'm in the middle of a conversation and I'm trying to concentrate on the conversation and the interruption? Or is it because I don't like being told what to do?
Yeah, okay. But it could be. It could be either.
But the tonality, I feel like...
What did you need from her?
I can imagine that she's laughing her head off right now. But I feel like if it was a case of like just a quick like, baby talking a bit loudly.
Yeah.
That'd be like, oh yeah, okay. But it's like, it's not, it's like, shut up, shush. That's the one, it's shush. Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, so it definitely, I think it felt dictatorial.
Yeah.
And like you're being told what to do, which often as well will trigger us like into our child response and take us right back to being kids. So there's probably something in it. But you're so right. Amy, sorry to put you on the spot, but if you adjust your tone and phrase it in a different way and say, hey babe, volume's gone up a little bit. But also as well, that's a really good thing in a relationship. If you know it's like a recurring thing, for example, because I'm going to guess you guys on the train and like travel a lot together. So I'm guessing...
really loud.
Yeah, and I'm guessing this is not her first time her being like, hey, can we take it down? Then like even have a signal as well.
Yeah.
Because then that will feel softer for you and it will be a nice little like reminder rather than you feel like you're being told off. But yeah, Amy, definitely if you say, hey babe, volume's gone up a little. No, tap him, give him a little nudge. That's going to be helpful. Yeah, you're so right. Your tone of voice has more impact on how your message lands than your words.
What about body language?
And that as well. So your words only actually account for 7% of how your message lands. And I always, whenever I use this research, depending on who I'm talking to, the most important thing is how all three elements work together. So you've got your non-verbal cues, your tone, and then your words. So your non-verbal is your body language, your face expressions, your hand gestures, everything physical. Your tone will be your volume, your pitch, your pace. So you noticed I slowed my pace down when we were talking about opening up. I slowed my pace down, I took my pitch down. So it felt safer. So think about, and it's hard in relationships because it's usually your safest place. So like we don't do all this work. And it's interesting because even my husband, we were having a conversation recently and like working on the way we're communicating, because whilst I'm explaining it, we still got to do the work. I don't get to skip this bit. And we have very different ways of communicating. And normally that's totally okay because I value the way he communicates because he does it in a way that I can't. And so I'm like, great, like I'm never going to miss anything because I've got him, and hopefully vice versa. But sometimes he will communicate in a really indirect way. So for you, for example, in that moment, it was Amy being maybe a bit too bold and doing it from a tone that felt either pushy and you felt that it was maybe a softer way that would have felt a little bit more caring and a little bit more nurturing had she adjusted her tone and her pitch and her pace and her volume. Whereas for my husband, he can be a bit indirect. And when he's indirect, I know he's not happy about something. Whereas I say to him, if you just tell me what it is, I don't have to guess. So my point is, whilst I talk so much about words and language and it's so important, we don't actually do enough work on your timing, your face expressions, your hands. Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? And this isn't. And I guess sometimes I'm cautious to talk about it because don't overdo it. We don't need to go and analyze everything, but you do need to be aware. And I think definitely with your closest people, your work environments, be mindful. I joke a lot because I talk with my hands. I'm half African. That's never going to leave, okay? But if you look at any kind of public speaking like textbook, they're going to be like, don't talk too much with your hands because it can come across as X, Y, Z. And like, that's my authentic trait and that's not going anywhere. So like, be mindful. Yeah. But you're right. In that conversation with Amy, we're just the tone and you'll get a better response.
I hope she's laughing at this now.
I hope so.
I've got a question for you. I got criticised on one of my social media posts the other day because I was going like that.
Okay.
And somebody comment. I don't know if this means anything, but based on your comments around body language and hand gestures, is she said, I hate when people do this masculinity, something. And I just said, if that's the only thing you've taken from what I've just said, then that says more about you than it does about me. But there is certain hand gestures and things, isn't there, that mean certain things. I mean, I just do that out of habit. It's not because I mean certain things.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand what she meant. But is that a thing?
Yeah, definitely. As you're talking, there's actually a great, I'm going to give you her name and her book and her podcast. Wish it was me promoting myself right now, but she is I think a behavioral scientist or a researcher at least, and she's studied like your non-verbal cues for over 12 years. So her book is called Cues, and it's Vanessa, I'm sure it's Van Edwards, I'm sure it is, and she studies this. And what's really interesting, she's been on Diary of a CEO, so you can go and listen to the podcast there. But what's really interesting when you hear her talk is we all have, say, like our natural face of like when it's just resting, okay? Some of us look a certain way, and as humans, we have been taught to read it in a certain way. So I agree with you. Like there's some things I do that are a habit. I think what's important is social media is a hard one because I just think it's really short content in a really...
Out of context.
Yes, and like social media is not the space where you get to talk about the context and the nuance. People want 60 seconds, took something away. And like, actually that is a really big, hard ask sometimes. But yes, there are certain cues that will help you land and feel more powerful, that will come across in a more powerful way. And so what she breaks down in her book is exactly the cues you kind of need to be a little bit more in tune with. And also, for example, like she gives a really good example. She said that naturally her eyes, are they work downwards. I don't know how to explain that. That is so badly communicated. The irony, guys. I'm human, okay? But what she said is that her eyelids make her look more miserable. And she went, her team know that's just her natural face. She went, but if she's going into a pitch or a presentation, she's really aware of that. And so what she does is wear winged eyeliner to bring her face up.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, it is important. I think her book is incredible on it, and it's cues, and it breaks it down from memory. I think there's like 97 cues.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot. So I always say, work on the bits you need to work on.
Sure.
Right, and don't overdo it and be like, I've got to go remember all 97 cues.
Yeah.
No, but just also if you've had consistent feedback, for example, you always look miserable, and like that's not helping you in your career, then you might want to look into why and just take one or two things away. So if you had that as one comment, I'd be like, well, you decide whether it's something you want to go and work on.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that consistently and it's coming across in a consistently negative way,
Yeah.
or let's say you were speaking to an all-female audience, they'll be like, okay, let's look at how we swap that for something else.
Is that a masculinity thing then? Is that right?
Yeah, Vanessa talks about this, but I'm sure she talks about it in a positive way. I don't want to speak it out of turn, so I'm going to go and double check it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely like things you can do with your, like I would do it and it would probably like really elevate me as a female.
Right.
But I'm surprised that in one video, that's been picked up. That feels harsh. I'm not going to lie. That feels harsh.
Well, that's social media.
Yeah, true. That's so true.
It still baffles me to this day. I get a lot, like, not a lot, I get some negative comments. I'm like, guys, like, I'm literally sharing my life story, trying to help people, and you still get negative comments. But it used to affect me. I really couldn't give a shit now.
Yeah, I honestly think that's a great way to be. I think I probably still have like work to do on it, because it's interesting if like a podcast goes out and it's on YouTube, then I'll get the onslaught of comments, or whenever I speak to a guy, which I find very interesting, and they'll criticise. Either I'm flirting or I'm the worst communicator they've heard. So very interesting. Yeah, but I'm aiming to get to your level of thick skin.
Yeah,
we're on the journey.
I just think, I'll not go too much into it, but I posted a video on TikTok. It must have been over 2 years ago now, and I posted it. it didn't go viral, but there was a lot of views in a short space of time, and all the comments were negative. And basically, it was and we're talking about out of context. It was a clip, and you're going to laugh when I say this because of what you said about cold water therapy. I was doing a workshop to kids, and I was like, basically, just get up in the morning, just do the fucking hard things, get an ice bath, go to the gym, and you'll feel way better. And it was basically that. And the kids were the most challenging kids in the school. And like the context of it was that the teacher said, if you swear, don't worry about it. They'll probably relate to you more. Yeah. But I posted that, and every comment that I got, it was just like, what? This guy's a prick. Like, I can't believe he's telling kids to get in an ice bath. Can't believe he's swearing. And it was 2 years ago now. I ended up deleting the post because all the comments, I was like, Jesus Christ, like, I'm telling kids, I'm giving them relatively good information, very good information.
Yeah.
To go away with, because the problem with kids is that they don't do the hard things and they don't have a resilience.
But especially because you were talking to a group of badly behaved kids, and actually this was hopefully going to be a moment in time that was going to like really switch something for them or give them resilience in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one.
And I ended up deleting it. It was 2 years ago now, but since then, I think the more you post, the more negative comments you get. I honestly find it hilarious because my mindset is that if your life is that bad, that you have the time to pick up your phone, to actually press a button and then think of the negative comment that you want to write, then that says a lot more about you than it does about me. And it's normally a reflection of the stuff that they're not doing or the insecurities that they have. And for me, in my mind, I just feel sorry for them.
So I think that's a great lesson actually, because it brings back to when people have got like challenges around communication, and a really big one is projection.
Yeah.
And people usually will say to me, Amira, like, how do I handle it? And so it's knowing when somebody is projecting onto you and giving you a negative comment, whether it's social, whether it's in real life, and knowing that that's not yours. And essentially, I always say it's like going to like your washing machine analogy. I have a great analogy. It's not mine. It came from one of my friends when we were at uni. It came from her brother, actually. And I use it with all my clients. But imagine that we're all ships and we've all got our own cargo. We're all sailing at sea. But sometimes when you pass another ship, they try to put their cargo onto you. You have to notice when they offload their cargo onto you. And when you notice, you just throw it overboard. Like it's not yours. You're not trying to give it back to them. Throw it overboard. And I think that's really important around projection because, as you said, your mindset now has shifted to be able to not take that on. And for socials, for sure, I always say, it's interesting. I had this conversation with one of my friends recently where her post has gone viral and the negative comments. She's in sports and fitness and running. And the amount of criticism, but also they've missed the point of the post.
Well, that's the majority of the time. The one single word is the only thing that they see from the post. And I've got an example that I'll tell you about after, but carry on. Sorry, carry on.
No, I just thought it was a really important point. So yeah, really look out for if something bothers you or has, you know, like you're feeling sensitive about something, it is usually somebody else's baggage. And so you don't have to do anything in those moments. That's just have the awareness inside. Think about the visual of like, I'm giving that back to them. That's not mine. And then it will help you communicate and show up better. On socials, we just don't respond.
Well, I do. Like, I didn't respond. This was why I didn't. Yeah. Now I do.
Yeah, my friend does actually.
And I do now. And it's just, I find it hilarious in the way that I reply because it just completely shuts down what they've said. I had a video that went viral. And it was a clip from a workshop, and I basically say, if you surround yourself with 5 idiots, you'll become the 6th. If you surround with 5 successful people, you'll become the 6th. People that are kind, that are ambitious, that want to go places. And somebody commented saying, you're an idiot if you paid for this guy's workshop, what a load of shit, or something like that. And I commented saying, well, the irony of that is, mate, that this was for free for a college workshop for kids struggling with their mental health.
Yeah,
like,
beautiful response.
It's just funny, like I think Amy picks up on it now because I'll just start laughing my head off. Yeah. I'll just start reading these comments like, I can't believe that's what somebody said.
I think it's a good way to respond at like the absurdity of it. And also you've got good quick comebacks. I'm naughty because I leave it and I'm like, yep, no, I'm going about my day.
But I was thinking now as well, I think it's the algorithm. Like, if you get into an argument, not that I get into an argument with them, but if I reply to somebody's comment, the more the comments are left, the more it pushes the video.
Honestly, my old social media manager was like, Amira, you need to respond.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm also in the middle of running a workshop. And she was like, respond to the comments. I was like, I have to sit and think and articulate something that really is going to land and shut it down. But yeah, she said the same.
The other video as well, when you're saying like somebody takes one sentence or one word that you've said from the video that's completely missing the point, is at the end of the talk that I deliver, there is a photo of Caroline Flack. And I said, does anybody recognise this lady? Some people put their hand up, some people don't. And I said, this is a lady called Caroline Flack. She was a TV presenter, a celebrity. She was in the public eye. Something happened in her life between her and a partner. There was an accusation of domestic abuse. In my opinion, does anybody know what really happened? It got completely blown out of proportion in the press, in social media, and she got absolutely ripped to shreds. So many hurtful and nasty things were said to her as a result. And very sadly, she took her own life. Social media is a great platform if you want to share a positive message, but I believe it's equally awful for the amount of bullying and trolling that goes on there. When you say something to somebody in person, it hurts and it sucks. Bullying is awful. But I believe it's 10 times worse online, because when you say something to somebody in the comments or the DMs, that person is constantly reminded of that hurtful thing you've said. And words hurt. Sometimes the person that looks okay can be the one on the edge. And it could take that one comment that could push them over. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. That's the clip. And oh my God, the amount of comments that I get saying, so you advocate for domestic violence, she was abuser, she hit us, and I'm just like, fuck me, like, you've literally taken what I've said, like, out of, like, you just can't fathom.
You missed the context.
Yeah, it's like, just be a fucking good human being.
When you were going to pause after you just saying it, because even you just talking about it now hit me. And I was like, we need that reminder, like we really, really do, around being kind. And I think sometimes it's easy. I feel at the moment as well that like you live two parallels. You have like your in real life and then you have your social media life, especially as well when it's your platform for work as well. And understanding, that people are still people. But I think where you're at with it in terms of understanding, you can like park it. If you've got that much time, then I wonder what else is going on in your life and what is important for you. The fact that you've got enough time to get into a debate with somebody that you don't actually know online, but you are so right. And also it's one of those myths that I love to bust. I think there's so many myths out there we've grown up with that are wrong and we need to like reframe them. And that is, words hurt, 100%.
Have you seen the documentary that's come out on Disney about the whole Caroline Flack incident? Watch it.
Okay.
It was I was absolutely raging watching it.
Okay.
I'll not go into it. I'll let you watch it.
All right. It's going on my playlist.
Yeah, honestly, it's amazing. So I'm going to finish with some quick fire questions.
Okay. Does this mean one word answers?
No. As long as you want it to be.
Oh, thanks.
What's one phrase everyone should stop using?
I just want to double check.
Really? Okay. Why?
It undermines you.
Okay.
Like, either you're going to check in on something, you want to clarify, take your filler words out.
What would you say instead?
I'm going to think of a live example to actually give you a good response. I'm clarifying tomorrow's meeting.
Ah.
Like, say what you actually want to say. Instead of, I'm just checking in.
Okay.
As soon as you use the word just, you just undermined anything you're about to say next.
That's an interesting. I'm glad you've said that, because that was one thing I wanted to ask you earlier. Again, communication expert. Communication is key in everything. The underlying message, the whole point of this podcast is mental health, improving mental health.
Yeah.
Communication is everything. Speaking to people. If you wanted to reach out to a friend that you thought was struggling, how would you approach it and what would you say?
So I don't think there's a right and a wrong way to do this. I think know the context and know your friend. So as a general rule, this is general, but I will caveat this, okay? I say use like anything written, whether it's work or personal, as a last resort. That doesn't mean everyone stop WhatsApping or iMessaging. But if, for example, you're going to send a message like that, you kind of have to deal with the hanging in the balance afterwards, because they might respond, but they might not. But you also know how your friend is like most likely to communicate. So think about the mode of communication first. Is it easier to go and pop around? Like, do you have that level of relationship? Is it more helpful for them to pick up the phone? Like, are they more likely to answer? Because if you send that message, kind of going to have to deal with the imbalance of, they might just ignore it as well. So depending on who it is, how you think they like to be communicated with, and them struggling as well, like how long has this gone on for as well? Is this something recent you've just noticed? Has something quite significant happened and actually you know they're struggling? I've got one of my friends at the moment who's like really in that space, and it's quite traumatic. And even for me, I struggled to find the words, and I like stopped and paused. And at first I was like, I'm here for you, and I want you to know I'm here for you. And then she opened up. I was like, actually, I could really do with a conversation. And I was like, okay, great. So yeah, actually, how would I do it? This is a good example. I sat on it for a couple of days. I actually asked one of my other friends. I was like, do you think she's going to appreciate me reaching out? Or do you think she needs some space? And they were like, no, I think she's going to appreciate it. And they were right. And so I said, I actually can't imagine what she's going through because I haven't actually experienced it. I said, and I didn't try and fill in the gaps or guess how she was feeling. And I didn't ask her. I just reinforced the fact that I'm here. And if you want to talk about it, let me know.
I love that. Amazing. What is one phrase everyone should start using?
Oh, that's a good question. So this is a little bit of a curveball. It's not an exact phrase because it will be different for everybody. But make sure you have 2 sentences where you can explain who you are and what you do.
So Amira, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Amira, aka the communication expert, and I'm on a mission to level up the way we communicate in our personal and professional relationships.
Love it. Love it. Love it. What is the most underrated communication skill?
My immediate answer, but I thought, oh, let me think about it. Immediate answer is listening. Probably adapting as well. I'll give you 3. Listening, for sure. Adapting. Stop thinking about, it's not about you guys. It's about the other person. And pause.
Power of the pause, baby.
This will be our mantra. Mantra from today.
I love it. A book or a tool that has changed your life?
Love this question. This is my oldie, but I'm still going with it because for me, this was like my pivotal moment. The Secret. I am very, very big on manifesting. And sometimes that book does get such a bad rap, but the ethos of it is understanding, and I guess the practice that truly changed my life. And I'm very, very against like, what's the one thing that changed your life? Because I don't believe there's always one thing. I believe that there's many things and they accumulate and they have this compound effect. However, that would be, I would say, the starting point of like a new chapter for me. And I live my life from a space of gratitude, and that is my non-negotiable. And I really think The Secret taught me to do that at a point where I really needed it.
I've read The Secret as well. Life-changing experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Gratitude is everything.
I think that, and it isn't about toxic positivity, and it isn't about not being able to acknowledge the hard feelings, the difficult times, the emotions, but it's creating the space, knowing that you have the tolerance and the resilience to deal with the hard things that you go through and still find joy in the moments. And I had a client session this week, and again, in a really tough time. It's been a tough year / couple years. And now, like 6 months later since we first started this, they turned around and was like, I've done my gratitude practice every day. And not just that, I noticed the difference. And I was like, okay. And that doesn't take away the pain, it doesn't take away the hard things that we're dealing with, but they still found the moments of joy. And she surprised herself with how many things she has to be grateful for.
Beautiful. I love that. One thing you wish more people opened up about?
My biggest thing is what they need. Like, what are your needs? And I think many of us dumb it down or think somebody else can't give it to us, or they were asking too much. But what about if you didn't let the negative self-talk take over? And what about if you stated it or you shared it? Because somebody else might just surprise you. Yeah.
Love it. Last question from me. How old were you when you started the journey of being the communication expert?
I was... How old was I? I was 31.
31. So if you could go back to 31-year-old Amira, you're just beginning on this amazing journey that you've been on, what would you say to her?
I can't believe you're asking me at this point because I've really been like reflecting on this lately. I'd probably say 2 or 3 things to her. I'd ask her to trust the process way more because it's going to get better than she actually can imagine. I'd ask her to remember to have fun along the way because what's the point otherwise? And I'd really ask her to put the doubt down and remember why you're doing this and it's not for you. And as long as you're having an impact on one person, then that's the goal you always set out to start with.